Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Style with Kicks, and I'm here for Quaran-Tea Sunday. Let me get my tea. As you guys see right here, got my tea. Let's take a little zip. It's good as always. All right, today is going to be a very special episode. I have a special guest today, but also today it's Mother's Day. I want to wish Mother's Day to all the beautiful women out there who are handling with this tough situation and this pandemic that we're going through worldwide. And I want to say thank you for all of you for supporting. And I want to wish everybody blessings on this day. Please support your mothers and the women that are involved. Today's guest is someone that's very close and I admire as a mentor. He's really a cool guy. He's in the footwear industry. He's been over on it for, I guess, over a decade. And he's been doing a lot of collaboration with big companies, big campaigns that I'm really proud of that he's done. One that I personally like to heart was We're All Dreamers that he did with K-Swiss. He's worked with Gary Vee. If you guys don't know who he is, he's a big entrepreneur. So he has been in the footwear industry. Now he's a co-founder of his own company called Magnus Alpha. Without further ado, here's Hommy Diaz.
What's up, man? How are you, man?
How's it going,
Good
homie?
to be on quarantine, man.
Quarantine life, for sure, brother. So how you been doing?
Thank you
How you
for inviting
handling
me.
this whole quarantine lockup or lockdown? What do you want to call it?
Yeah, definitely a lockdown or a lockup, either which way you see it. We're
Yeah.
closed in our cribs, and it's been a challenge, but I've been enjoying it to a certain degree, trying to stay, creative, challenging myself while, juggling two toddlers and my wife who's pregnant. So it's been quite a challenge.
If I can ask, is it okay if they're going to allow you to be with her when she gives birth? Because some people are not allowed to do that.
Yeah, last we heard, up until about maybe a week and a half ago, the significant other would not be allowed in the labor room, but hopefully that will change between now and middle of June. We're expecting our daughter.
We were talking offline that you said that you were suspecting that maybe your wife got COVID because, whatever reason, because you travel a lot and you're a person that is very open about your travels and you post it online, and you told me that she got sick, but what was the whole situation there?
So I was in Milan in February, and miraculously enough, I flew back. My flight was scheduled on the Monday morning that it blew up. It went from 30 cases to like 400 cases from that Sunday night into Monday.
Wow.
And I found out about those numbers at the airport while everyone at the Milan airport was standing just literally frozen in time, looking at the TVs, the monitors in the airport as the news was flashing. And it was live news or whatever, and it was talking about what was going on. I was like, this is crazy. Anyways, I got back and I felt fine. I literally got off the flight out of a precaution. I landed and literally went straight to the hospital from the airport. And they were unfortunately, the hospitals were completely underprepared. They had no way of really dealing with it. They made me wait outside, which I actually felt better waiting outside because there was two individuals in the emergency room, inside the emergency wait room, that looked really crazy sick. So anyways, I was outside for like a good 30, 35 minutes before they came out and got me in hazmat suits.
Oh, they grabbed you? They quarantined you?
Well, no, they just came out, all covered up to like, attend, to bring me inside and, evaluate me.
Oh, okay.
Basically, they just did some preliminary tests and they were like, you have nothing, we can't keep you. We can't quarantine you. Because honestly, I wanted to entertain being quarantined because I had my two little kids at home and my wife was pregnant. And a few weeks later, my wife got really sick. Yeah, so the crazy part is that, we were trying to get her to her doctors to get seen, at least her OBGYN, and all her doctors refused to see her.
Oh, wow.
They wanted to avoid potential case of COVID, because my wife was transparent and said, hey, my husband was in Italy and, she just was being honest. And then they were like, well, you don't come here, don't come this way. And basically it was a frustration and a lot of confusion because she couldn't go see her doctor. So she suffered for like 2.5 weeks.
Damn.
And then finally, she went to an emergency room. They saw her there because obviously we didn't want to just go to the hospital because there were, the news was saying avoid going to the hospitals if you don't have actual symptoms, but she kind of did, but she kind of didn't. So it was this really vague situation.
Yeah.
So we wanted to avoid just going to the hospital, all of us going to the hospital, putting ourselves at risk, or B, her going by herself and putting herself at risk. So it was a lot of confusion. But eventually she went to the hospital overnight. They saw her. They were only able to confirm that she had like a common cold.
I'm glad she's better. I'm
Thank you,
glad to
man.
hear that. And unfortunately, like I told you offline, my uncle passed away from COVID. I just recently did an online funeral, and so we're lucky that we're alive and we're healthy and we have our health to move on from this. I see that you're wearing your shirt called Lourdes. That's your aunt, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I think back in the fall of 2019 is when you did a campaign for her dealing with Alzheimer's, and she was also a mother, right? She had her own kids.
absolutely, man.
Is she
Yeah.
the one that gave you the advice, like says if you want to be a famous artist, you have to like die first and then you get known or something like that? Is that
No,
her?
no, actually, she wasn't. She wasn't. And first, before I go further, I just want to give you my condolences on the passing of your uncle.
Oh,
I know
thank
it's
you,
very
man.
difficult, man. So, it's honorable and it's a pleasure for me to have this opportunity to sit with you under these circumstances in your family. So, I appreciate the time to invite me on the show with you, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Of course, of course.
So, explain to everybody a little bit what that means and what was the meaning behind that release that you have for that shirt that you're wearing right now.
Yeah. So, just to fast forward to today, I'm actually wearing the shirt now because she passed a year ago today,
Oh,
or at least,
wow.
in May of last year. So again, paying tribute to her because she paved the way for me. So to answer your question, no, she was not the aunt that made that comment about when I was around 12 years old saying, if you want to be an artist, remember artists don't become wealthy and famous until after they're dead, they're dead. So no, that was a different aunt. I have a lot of aunts. I'm blessed to have over 9 aunts. So it's a blessing and I guess an opinionated curse in some way. Our strong Latino women are very opinionated, but it's all
Yes.
love, and you got to take it in stride, and you got to feed off of that. But to get more into detail with my aunt Lourdes, she was the first female in the family, and she was one of over 10 siblings to leave the Dominican Republic and venture into the United States, eventually bringing all of her brother and sisters to the US, to New York particularly. So had it not been for her, my parents would have never met because she had reintroduced my mom to my dad in
Wow.
New York.
That's amazing.
So they knew each other as young children in the Dominican Republic, as neighborhood kids, but my parents are 6 years apart. My dad's 6 years older. So when there were kids running around, they didn't know each other. They knew of each other, but they didn't know
Oh,
each other. And my dad and my aunt being around the same age, they knew each other. But again, they were just random kids in the neighborhood playing. So in New York City, my aunt reintroduced my mom as now a young woman to my who now is dad. I'd be
wow.
someone else. I would have been maybe Homie Diaz, but born in the Dominican Republic, or who knows. So the point is that she is just as responsible for my existence as my parents who biologically gave birth to me. Fast forward a year ago now, she passed away from Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
So
Sorry about that. Yeah.
thank you, man. Fast forward to last fall, I created this campaign to pay homage to her and Alzheimer's because she passed away from Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's Day is in September, and Alzheimer's Month is in November. So it was the perfect, season to, pay tribute to her and donate some money to the Alzheimer's research.
That's cool. I like how your brand represents having a strong message behind each product. It's not just in vain. I noticed that your brand is about setting a message, like even your acronym, POA, right? POAI.
POAI.
Yeah. Product of an immigrant. Explain a little bit about that, how you came up with that and why is that so important to you?
So basically, growing up in New York City, it was, I grew up in a home that spoke only Spanish at the time. So even though I was born in the US, I was very much so a product of an immigrant environment. So if I went back to the Dominican Republic, they saw me as the lucky kid from the United States. But I wasn't so much different than them because it's not like I had so much more knowledge and privilege than they did. In the US, I was borderline middle class poor. In the Dominican Republic, that seemed rich, but at the same time, I was very, very at home with them, taking showers in the alleyways out of buckets, and that lifestyle it was second nature to me because I was so much closer to that world
Right.
in the first 5 years of my life than I
Hmm.
was the Americanized, very highly educational American Anglo-Saxon kind of lifestyle.
Right.
So I identify with my immigrant roots. So again, everything moving forward in my life was always applied or acknowledged from a point of view of being a product of an immigrant.
Right. Right.
And that was always my life. So I always felt that I always had to pay homage to my roots and the fact that I am a product of an immigrant. Hence, Lourdes, I'm a product of her. She's an
Yes.
immigrant. My
Yes.
parents, I'm a product of them. And these are the people that molded me. These are the people that raised me and gave me, the dual perspective on my surroundings, by default. It wasn't a choice. It's like, hey, I see the world at least from two perspectives because of that. Not from I'm not it's never been a one-sided thing for me. It's never been a one-sided point of view or point of opinion for me. It's always been, how do I see things from both sides or two sides of any coin? How do I
Right.
take a look at it with an open mind? And that's helped me become who I am today.
Now that you are in America now and you're a little older, I noticed that in your Instagram recently you posted how your journey to get into footwear started at Apple, if that's correct.
Yeah.
So from Apple, from there, explain to the audience a little bit how you advanced your career in the footwear industry.
Yeah. So after graduating from Parsons School of Design in 2001, that was May of 2001. So I graduated from a college, with a college degree in design and arts. Right before graduation, we had like from my major had like a little mixer gathering of all the graduates from my major with the chairman of the department, and he was there. It was more of like a pop a bottle, celebrate to the coming graduation in weeks to come. And in his speech, he said, "Look, the economy is very difficult. It's very tough now. You are all you're gonna find it very difficult to land a job." Coming out of there, he was right. The economy was terrible and it was very difficult to find a job. Fast forward to September, we're in September now. What happens? 9/11.
Yeah.
It's the same year.
Yep.
So that just really made it difficult to find a job. The world was in shock. A lot was going on. It was really, really crazy. I had to put my pride aside as a college graduate and find any work I could find. So in 2002, I applied to work for the Apple Store to help open the first Apple Store in New York City.
Oh wow.
And yeah, so because I was like, you know what, my student loan, the bill's coming in, it's not going to stop. I love to live with my parents, but I'm like, it's time for me to grow. So anyway,
Right.
so I ended up accepting the job with Apple, and everybody was like, "You're gonna go work at retail? You crazy? You got a degree? Like, you got to keep fighting to get a job in your industry. I'm just gonna use it to network." And they're like, what the hell is he talking about? Everybody looked at me like I was crazy. Like, what is he talking about? I was
That's
like,
actually pretty smart, actually.
yeah. I looked at it like, I'm a network, and they're just like, what? They just didn't get it. At that time, I knew the power of networking. I knew what networking meant. I knew how networking can help you evolve and learn new things. And to me, that's what college is about today. College is about networking. You can learn just about anything on the internet that colleges can teach you. But what they used to do is give you the ability to network with people from all different walks of life that would go enroll into that school. Now you have the internet for that. Now you can network on the internet and you can learn on the internet. I'm working for Apple and I'm networking my ass off. And then DC Shoes becomes one of my clients. And, I grew up skateboarding. So, I knew DC Shoes very well. And the executives from the DC corporate that I had met were very impressed with my knowledge. And little by little, they started connecting the dots, how like, yeah, this is Homie Diaz, he used to skateboard. He knows all of these professionals that we used to either sponsor or that we're friends with. So the circle got tighter and tighter. And they made the shoe. We blessed all the employees with it. And they offered me a job.
That's freaking cool, man. See,
Yeah.
I do believe that networking is now the way of doing things,
It's always been. It's always
Yeah,
been.
it's always been like there's always a debate of like talent versus marketing and networking. Like, I don't know. I think sometimes you can be so talented, but without the right marketing, it doesn't attach to people, you know?
Yeah, so that's how I get, in a sense, it was a twofold uh, um, equation. One was the networking and knowing all the people that I knew in the past in my skateboarding world. That was one thing that linked everything together. The other one was my education at Parsons. The other thing was taking those two things together and coming up with a strategic pitch to them. that I made sense out of it versus just throwing something out the air and walking away. I said, look, if you do step 1, 2, and 3, it can equate to this. And my step 1, 2, and 3 was save yourself, 6 figures and maybe spend 5 figures, maybe if that, on 300 pairs of shoes, put it on the feet of employees in a store that is attracting everyone and anyone that's within a 100-mile radius that comes into the store to see that. And then have people say, those are dope. Those are DC shoes. What? Oh, wow. Okay. And then have the media take that on, spin it out, because back then social media wasn't really happening. It was blogs. It was all about blogs.
I remember that.
I was like, have the blogs feed that, and then you can leverage that to then say, we're going to open a store in Soho, and then have the talk have come out of there. So they were like, they saw my thinking and they're like, damn, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. April of 2002, and the DC thing didn't happen until 2007.
Oh, wow. That's
So,
a long time. It's a long time in patience.
So skateboarding taught me patience. It's about patience. It's about learning and enduring the process and getting as much out of the process as possible in real time versus skipping ahead to demand a certain level of attention and experience on the spot, because you're skipping so many things that can happen if you're cutting off the organic timeline. If you're cutting it off with asking for something like that you haven't even earned from that person or that entity, you're going to probably miss out on a lot of experiences because you've distracted them from organically inviting you along the process.
It's like the human element. Like I think people forget the human element. We all have different ideas at the moment, and then people change and they progress and they have different thoughts. Like I always take that in consideration whenever I'm talking to somebody or I'm like trying to like work on a project. I bring in that human element, like how is their day going? How is their mindset during a certain time period? You don't know what they're going through. They probably have personal problems. They have like business problems, and they don't want to like open up to that random stranger they met only like a few times. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's very important. Like when I first met you, right away, I knew that you were a man of patience. I don't know what it is, though. It was the way you were conversing with me, and I have a way of speaking a little more faster. And I was like, this guy's very patient. His tone, he knows what he's talking about. He's well versed. Like, so I think that's another element that we have to consider as people that are creative. We just can't think it's gonna happen in a snap of a finger. Like we have to really be patient on what we're trying to achieve. The next thing I want to ask you was how you started working for Gary Vee and the K-Swiss brand, because that's how I met you initially.
Well, first I was hired by Palladium Boots. If you're familiar with Palladium Boots.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, and their Palladium Boots is owned by K-Swiss. So I was first hired by Palladium Boots under the K-Swiss umbrella. In the United States alone, there are 3 tiers. There's a tier 3, a tier 1, a tier 2, tier 1, and then in a Nike's case, it's a tier 0. So what this means is that there's different levels of shopping and product design for those different tiers. So you know what a tier 0 is. A tier 0 for Nike is something super exclusive. A tier 1 would probably be something like a boutique or, something just above a boutique. A tier 2 is more like your mall, like your Foot Lockers and stuff like that. A tier 3 is what they call a family channel. So it's like like a famous footwear or Shoe Carnival, all of these big box stores that the family goes in, like a parent goes in and buys for them and their kids.
You had to take care of all those tiers as your job?
Yeah, so my job was to go out with the sales team and visit the headquarters of all those doors. So the Foot Locker Inc. group, I had to go visit them. The Shoe Carnival and these are all stores that you probably haven't seen because they're so Midwest and inside the country.
Right.
But they have like hundreds and hundreds of doors. There's like a store called Off Broadway. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Off Broadway shoes.
No,
it's a whole nother world. It's a whole nother world, but they do a lot of business. A lot of they have Nikes in there. They have Nike exclusive Nike product, exclusive Puma product, you name it. They have almost every brand, but it's product designed specifically for that price point and that community. So it's another business. It's like, this is real money. This is huge money. This is what keeps the lights on for K-Swiss and all these brands.
So the misconception is that you think that the bigger collaborations makes the money, but actually this is the actual like bread and butter?
Yeah, no, the collaborations they don't keep the lights on.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah,
I learned something new today.
It's the tier 2s and 3s, and some may call it a tier 4 when you get really deep into like the TJ Maxx and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's within the tier 3 channel. Anyway, so my job as the head of the regional merchandiser for the Americas, I had to go in with the sales rep designated to those accounts and sit down with them and come up with merchandising plans
Oh,
and
okay.
design shoes for that consumer. So,
So you would
you know,
design the shoes yourself, or you have a team to work with you?
both. Well, mainly, obviously it's a huge business, so it was very difficult to do it all myself. But I was I was the point guard per se. I had to set it up,
Right.
either score or pass it off to the center, the design VP, or drive down the lane and score. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah,
the team
yeah,
is it's very like a basketball team. They're starting five. And we all have to work together to rotate the ball, and everyone's goal is to shoot or to get the ball closer to the hoop
yeah.
and create businesses with them. So that's what I did for like about a year after Palladium was sent back to France. And then eventually, because of my talent and what I brought to the table, they made me head of color and materials at
Okay.
K-Swiss. So I was kind of doing both jobs, but more on the design team now than the product line management team. So we had to switch gears. So then I got switched gears to now become the senior designer for special projects.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And right in that time, Foot Locker had came to us to K-Swiss and said, "Hey, we need a special project for Hispanic Heritage Month."
Oh, okay. Yeah. I remember
Like
that.
come, and they were like, they sent us a brief, something like, like a wrestling mask or a worm, and I was like, hell
What?
no. I
That's
was like, hell no.
typical.
So obviously that in the chain came right to me, like, all right, homie, we need you to do something with this. And that's when I came up with, the We All Dreamer shoe.
Yeah, that was an awesome concept.
So for us, like, that was like, yeah, this is a great way to, pay respect to, our older consumer and our new consumer, which is Latino. So that's one way. The other one is like, hey, we want to give back. We want to donate money. With everything that was going on with immigration at the time, we wanted to donate money. Internally, everybody was so hyped, both on K-Swiss side and Foot Locker, that Foot Locker placed their order based on the drawing that I made,
Oh, okay.
not off
Cool.
of a sample. Normally, they receive a sample and they go, make some changes, or no, you know what? Green light, go. We're going to place an order. They didn't
That's
even have a
dope, man.
sample. They were just so into it that they placed the order, huge order, like one of the biggest orders for like a small project or like a story-driven product. What happens? Fast forward, the shoe's being produced, it's in production. Foot Locker pulls out.
Really? What was the reason?
Colin Kaepernick and Nike's ad.
I don't get it. What, I'm a
Remember
little.
the Colin
Oh,
Kaepernick
oh, they,
ad?
they they went with him instead.
No, they came out with it. Nike went against, the NFL and everybody else and just blindsided everybody by supporting him with the ad.
Ah,
So then Foot Locker got like overwhelming calls saying, "Wait, are you supporting kneeling? Are you supporting the disrespect of our national anthem?" And they're like, "Yo, we're not saying anything." So they were like,
that's
"You know
true.
what? We don't want any controversy." So they literally pulled out. They literally pulled out like end of August. 15
Oh,
days left to Hispanic Heritage Month. That was one of those moments that helped, K-Swiss kick into gear more seriously on developing a direct-to-consumer customer.
and I think you took that also that direct to consumer to your own brand after you were done with K-Swiss, now with this Magnus Alpha. So tell me how you dealt with that before the COVID and all that. How did you come up with like, I'm gonna get my own online community to support me and my brand?
Yeah, so basically, at the time I was working with K-Swiss, and Magnus was more of a concept that was already was already produced and in fruition, and it was kind of on autopilot.
Yeah.
So, but I was dedicated to K-Swiss at the time, so I spent very little time trying to promote that. And then finally, when I parted ways with K-Swiss, I came up with the Tres Golpes campaign.
Oh
I don't know
yes,
if
that
you
was a
saw
cool.
that.
Yeah, I saw
And
that
that
one.
was another idea to pay homage to my immigrant roots.
Yeah, the
So
Dominican Republic.
basic, yeah. So that was January, I started that whole concept in January of 2019. February 27th is the Independence Day of Dominican Republic.
Oh, okay, cool.
So basically, I decided to come up with a campaign to support the Dominican American National Foundation. It's a non-for-profit organization that puts on events at professional sporting events. They would choose a game in different states, and they would put on an inauguration honoring a Dominican in that community or multiple Dominicans in that community for their contributions and their accomplishments. So this was amazing to me. I was like, wow, these guys go out there and they put on this event at the beginning of the game. They honor someone in that community for being who they are and the things that they've done. And it's a great way to highlight people, and it's good camaraderie, and it's a good way to encourage people to be themselves.
Yeah, that's true. I 100% agree with that.
So I said, you know what? I'm going to do something for them. And I pitched them to do a shoe around that whole thing. And that's what we ended up doing. So I was fortunate to be honored at the LA Clippers game, the Miami Heat's game, and the Brooklyn Nets game on Dominican Independence Day.
That's awesome. I remember seeing that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, so the game, the shoe got, publicity in LA, Miami, and New York. And it's the biggest selling shoe for the brand today. We sold so many pairs, and they were pre-ordered, by the way. They were pre-ordered shoes. So I would say the first quarter going into Magnus full time was like so far the best quarter, because I had a little more ammunition at that time, some money to fund it. And fast forward, then I did the Lourdes campaign. So it's all been these strides, man, little by little, building these campaigns that are meaningful and have a longer lasting purpose than a one flash in the pan kind of idea. I see Magnus 15, 20 years down the road. I'm not worried about Magnus today. Fortunately, Magnus is not a huge operation. In a good way, I don't have employees to support, because that would be terrible to be in a position where I can't no longer support them because there's no money coming in.
Yeah.
So in two ways, I'm thankful and then grateful for that.
That's true. And that's what I've gone through that stage now where I'm rethinking how am I gonna, because they're saying your brand is yourself, right? Like people know me as an online blogger who has this collection of shoes and showcases that, but I don't think people are really into that right now. So I'm like re-strategizing how I'm gonna go about it. But one thing I want to ask before I let you go, because I know we've been talking for a while now. This is more like questions, so maybe for the people that are listening that want to start their own brand, like how would you tell them to like approach it where they know that they're talented, right? They have the skills and they have some network, but how would you tell them to go about it where they don't act too quickly to make error in judgment, like so they can stay focused and not get tied up with the trend?
Well, I mean, you have to embrace the errors. There's no like step-by-step rule book that's foolproof. All the rules, all the books that you're going to get, you're going to discover and experience an error within every single one of them, because it's all within your time. It's all within your approach. Like you said, you're your own brand. So there's no way to do it without failing or to be held up by an error. Yeah. So there's no one thing I can say, or no 3 steps on how to do it where they're going to be like in a better place. They got to learn for themselves. But the beauty is that nowadays you can find 101 examples of whatever it is you're trying to do. And
That's
you can
true.
learn from it. You can easily learn from others' mistakes, but it doesn't mean a mistake's not coming your way. It's gonna happen regardless. But hey, take those mistakes with strides and push forward.
Yeah, just try and see what you do, and if you're good at it, keep going at it. If you're not, try something new. All right, homie, thanks for talking to me today. I know you got to go. You got a family to attend to. So do I. So we got things to take care of. And thank you guys for watching Quaran-Tea Sunday. Here's my
Cheers,
tea.
brother.
Let's say cheers before we say goodbye. And I wish
bro.
you well. And thank you for doing this. And I hope everything the best for you for 2020. And whatever it may be, let's keep in touch. And let's keep talking. And let's have our teas. All right, guys.
Likewise, man.
Thanks, homie. Peace.
Peace, brother. All right.
Peace.